What's up guys? In today's video, I'm going to show you guys how I lost 7 figures in the previous bull run. These are just going to be a couple of the mistakes I made from the last bull run and, well, how I basically lost everything. Now, of course, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I just want to share with you guys a couple of mistakes that I made so you don't make those mistakes in the next bull run. The whole goal of my channel is not to show how great I am or how I know everything. In fact, it's complete opposite. I want to share my mistakes so you don't have to make the same ones and you can learn from them. So let's go ahead and start with the first one. The first one is Scream Finance. Now, at the time, ETH was trading like $3,500 or $3,300 or something like that. And I had 23 ETH that got stuck in here. What happened is these yields were extremely high and I was immature and a noob. And I was looking at this and I was like, this is awesome. Let me go ahead and ape in. And I deposited, and sure enough, I got stuck. There was bad debt in the system, and basically my ETH got stuck in there while everyone else withdrew. These APYs were like 115%, 120%. Now, just because you see an APY doesn't mean that you can withdraw. So basically, I have about $80,000 stuck in here. Now, obviously, it's less now that ETH price dropped, and significantly less now that the multi-chain hack happened. It's basically worthless. It's just a lesson learned, a very expensive lesson learned. $80,000 for this, I don't know, education, I guess you want to call it. But the first lesson learned on this is a couple of risks. First is this one didn't show up till later is the bridge risk. The multi-chain hack is not cool. So now this ETH that you see here is not really what the ETH is worth. So if you check out the multi-chain ETH, you can see here the current price of multi-chain ETH is $172. This is basically because there is no backing for ETH. Now, that is the first risk. It's just the bridge risk. You're taking on different risks by using pegged assets or assets that are issued on a bridge onto a different chain. Like Ethereum is not native on Phantom. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I was chasing after APRs and not understanding why the APRs were so high. It's because there was bad debt in the system and people were either withdrawing or over borrowing, and you had a situation to where, well, there's no liquidity to withdraw. So that ETH is roasted. So that was the very first one. Total it up, let's just call it around $80,000. The second one is Vader Protocol. Now, Vader Protocol was one of those projects that was hyped up to be like the next Luna. This is when Luna was going crazy. And some people were sharing tweets like, oh, it's going to be the next Luna. Mike Novogratz is invested, yada, yada, yada. So what did I do? I threw 10 bands at it to see what would happen. And sure enough, Vader got roasted. And I ended up taking the 10 bands to about $266. Great trade. But here's what the lesson was. The lesson is just because you see a protocol and just because you see a tweet on Twitter that says, oh, this is awesome, this guy knows everything, he's invested, it's not always true. It's just a rumor. And just because you see a protocol that launches out that promises to be just like Luna or another project that's extremely successful, especially at that time, it doesn't mean anything. Sometimes the winners, they just stay the winners and keep being the winners. Be careful buying different derivative assets that overpromise and underdeliver. This team, very immature, and that's how most of the teams are in the crypto space. And sometimes you make the most money on the deals you don't do. So you make the most money on the coins you don't buy, which this was one of them. Now the next one is DeFi Kingdoms. So as you can see here, a good portion of this was locked Jewel, but I also had about $300,000 in Jewel liquid. At its peak, it probably went to about $400,000. But what I did was I drank the Kool-Aid. And locked Jewel wise, like at its peak, it was probably about $1.5 million. The reason why I'm talking about these two is that, yes, I could have actually sold the locked Jewel. I could have sold it probably at like a 20, or I don't know, maybe a 50% discount of what the price was, or let's just call it 80%. It doesn't matter. That would still be like $200,000. And then the liquid Jewel, obviously, that was in the farms and just kind of chilling and earning a yield. That was about $400,000 worth. Now, here were a couple of problems. First, I got in under $1 on this. And I decided to ride it up to $5, $10, $15, $20, and keep riding it out. Now, the worst thing you can do, this is a picture of Vader. The worst thing you can do is look at a token and be up, I don't know, let's call it at its peak. It was like, you can't even factor in the returns because the APRs were nuts. It was like 10,000% APR. Just farming this thing. And at its peak, it went to $20. And just riding this and sitting in here, I bought in sub $1. It was probably like 75 cents. And I'm farming this and compounding at not compounding, I was letting it stack, but at a 10,000% APR, which at the time and still now is a ton of money. Now, obviously, as the jewel price started going up, the farming rewards go up. And at its peak, it was probably over $4,000 a day. Now, mind you not, a good portion of that was locked because they had the little locking mechanism. But the point I'm trying to say is, as it was going up, even after a 3x or a 4x, take some off the table. Now, that was more so pointed at me, that comment, but that kind of also relates to anyone who is in that situation. If you get up a 3x, if you get up a 4x, a 5x, take some off the table. Like, I had $400,000 liquid. Why did I write it down? I did end up selling, good news, but what happened is it rolled all the way down to $4, and I was like, it'll come back to 20, and then I'll sell. Maybe, just maybe, if it goes back to 10, I'll sell. So what did it do? It went back to 10. I was like, okay, it's 50% there. I'm going to wait till it's 20, and then I'm going to sell. What got me? Greed. I didn't sell. What happened? I ended up selling around $1. And then, of course, the lock jewel, it's still there. I should have sold it, but there was one kid who was like 15 years old. Everyone was bashing him. He sold a huge bag of lock jewel, like 80% off. And people were like, oh, you're a moron, you're a loser. He's looking back at us now, and he's like, okay, whatever. And he is sitting pretty. Very smart guy for not letting greed get the best of him. So this, mainly a story of greed. And just because it keeps going up doesn't mean it'll keep doing that. The next one I want to talk about is CyberFi. This was very early not very early, but this was at peak bull run. I ended up buying this coin around $4. And I was like, this is cool. But what did I do that was wrong? The first thing I did is it had a staking mechanism to where it locked. Now I was smart enough. I was like, I'm only going to lock half of this. I locked half and I kept the other half liquid. Now I'm very cheap. So when it comes to gas fees, like I try to save every penny. Ethereum gas fees at the time were nuts and ham. So what happened is, I don't know, like a week before the staking unlocked, this thing went to $80 at its peak. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, bro, I'm up like a 15x on this. And I'm sitting here like, bro, I'm up a 20x on this. This is nuts. What I'll do is I'll wait till it's unlocked, or maybe 2 days before it's unlocked, I will sell half my bag and be okay. Well, what ended up happening is like 2 days right before, it was like a sell the early news event to where I was expecting it to sell on that day. And sure enough, it sold before and it dropped down to like $40 or $30. And I was like, you know what? When it gets to $60 or $50, I'll sell it again. Never got there, ended up writing it down all the way to $3. And as you can see, here is my screenshot. Put in $2,500. I got 405 CyberFi tokens. At its peak, 405 times, let's just call it $80. That would have been $32,000. And what did I do? Well, it ended up just riding up. And I just sat there. I claimed it. And I ended up selling the whole stack for $400. $400 instead of $32,400. What did I do wrong? Well, one, I should have sold. I shouldn't have just sat there and held it and been like, okay, well, there's still a week left. It's got room to run. Dude, you're up at 20x. Take profits. So at that point, it was take profits, chill. I mean, just be happy having a stinking 20x and look for the next play. I mean, the token's name, for crying out loud, is CyberFi. What the snap? So the next one is Terra Luna. Now this might give some people some PTSD, but basically with Luna, I bought this around 70 cents. No, it was actually like 50 cents. And what happened with this is, sure enough, I wrote it. I wrote it all the way to $100. But good news is I did take profits on this one. I was smart. I sold around $5. So I made a 5x. I sold half the bag. I initially bought 2,000 worth, and I sold half of it. And then the other half I decided to stake, earn some staking rewards. And then they had this thing called Anchor Protocol, and all that jazz came out. So I started playing around over there. Now at that point in time, everyone's euphoric, and this was like massive euphoria because this was a position that turned $1,000 into over $100,000. Obviously, subtracting the profits and whatnot, and depending on when you look at it, when it was at its peak, it actually went to like $125 at its peak. So it's like giga euphoria. So at this time, it's about $125,000. Now, sure enough, I'm like, hey, it's a free bag, it's okay, whatever. And I already had losses on all the other, not all the other tokens, but I just share with you guys some of the losses. I end up writing this out, and I even got into the situation to where some people were going on Anchor Protocol, where they were lending out Terra, borrowing UST, taking that UST to buy Luna, and looping that. As I was looping this, I was like, all right, well, Luna is starting to go down in price. I got to manage my debt position. But at the same exact time, UST decides to do a depeg event. So it starts to depeg. Now I'm like, what the snap? Oh no, what do I do? So UST is depegging. I have my loans on Anchor Protocol. And I'm like, you know what? I'll repay the loans, withdraw my Luna, and just kind of like be okay. Well, not repay, but pay him down just so I can manage this position. Well, Luna price keeps dropping. The debt ratio increases again, so I have to pay that down. And it all gets into a situation to where eventually I do pay it down, but I'm left with like a little bit of dust on chain. Now, good news is I was a smart guy. I took profits on several other tokens as well, and it was about 6 figures. It was worth in UST. Now, what did I do? Well, I was like, I'm a yield maxi. Instead of cashing out into the bank, I decided to go ahead and throw it into one of these yield farms. Sure enough, one of them looked like this. This was ThorSwap. Now, ThorSwap, at the time, this was when Luna was doing all its thing and they were having issues on chain. Well, I had a bunch of UST locked in there. This is just one of the wallets. I can't even find the other ones. But it was about $50,000 deposited into ThorSwap. And when you deposit this into the pool and UST, the pools are frozen, you have a situation to where you can't manage your risk. So as UST is depegging, I couldn't have done anything to withdraw it. What I should have done was I should have gone onto a centralized exchange and hedged my position. How would have I hedged it? Well, I simply would have shorted UST. So effectively in this pool, I'm long, but in the exchange, I'm short. So if it goes down, I make money. If it goes up, well, it's okay. My LP is okay, and I'm fine with the short getting wrecked. I don't care at that time because it would be a leveraged short, so it would pay me off as it goes down. And if it goes up, well, the most it can go up is $1. I mean, sure, it can go over that, but it's not really likely. So the lesson I learned from this is, one, is manage your risk accordingly. If you are in a asset that is losing peg, or if you like a stable coin, or if you're in another asset that you are up multiple X's, take profits. That's managing risk, because if it goes to zero, well, it's house's money. Who cares at that point? Second is if it's like a stable coin and this is your capital, manage your risk. If you see it losing peg, or if you see it go down 3%, 4%, it's better to take that 4% haircut than it is to write it all down to zero. Now, I'm not saying all of them are going to do that, but you just have to manage your risk accordingly. Third is when you take profits, don't take them into a stable coin and be tempted to throw them into some of these yield farms. I'm telling you, it is extremely tempting. We talked about this on one of the DeFi Top Signal podcasts. cash it out to the bank. I'm telling you, you'll feel so much better. And then when the crypto market collapses, as it goes through its cycles, as it always does, you will thank yourself later. I'm not done there, guys. It still goes. There's massive wreckage. I'm going through this, so one, I go through PTSD. Two, so I can go ahead and learn from my mistakes. This next one had to do with a hack. This was my Cosmos wallet, and at the time, this was around $16,000, $17,000. You can see here there's 477 Cosmos tokens. But basically what happened is I finally found out what it was. I made this video on it like, hey, I got hacked, etc. And yeah, I did get hacked. What happened was I went to a website, not a website, but basically the site I went on is it changed the withdrawal address when I unstaked. So mysteriously my tokens became unstaked. I didn't give out my keys. I never give out my keys. I don't store those online. I don't leave those there. Those are all in cold storage, and those are all paper in a safe. So I knew that wasn't the issue, especially the way that it was hacked. He only stole my Cosmos tokens. I even wrote him a message like, hey, you stole the wrong tokens, da da da, da whatever. Yeah, he didn't care. He took them, sent them to an exchange, and they're all his now. But basically what happened is it changed my withdrawal address on Cosmos. It's not going to load for me, but you can see here he received, send, and the tokens are basically gone forever. As soon as they were unstaked, he withdrew them immediately. But there is a way to fix this. If you're on Cosmos, if you mysteriously notice your tokens become unstaked, make sure you go over to a Cosmos station. It's on your phone to get that. I think they have it on the, I'm looking at Cosmos station right now. Change your withdrawal address. Most of the time, if it's a exploit with your withdrawal address changing, it's because you went to a phishing site that was able to swap that over, and you were accidentally, because like you just click approve and whatever, you approved and changed the withdrawal address. It always helps to use a ledger as well. So this is kind of what a ledger looks like. It locks it up. I always put a link in the description below if you guys ever wanted to get a ledger. I think it gets you like 20 bucks back in Bitcoin. But the point is just because you have a computer, you're online, and you think you're safe, it's always best to have a separate device you literally use for crypto only. And two, use a hardware wallet. That way it's just a extra layer of security. And three, never store all of your funds in one wallet. Good news is well, actually I had all my Cosmos tokens here. But for other tokens, I had them on different addresses. Like I had my Luna tokens in a different wallet. At this point, doesn't matter. It's worth zero. But I had like Ethereum, etc., and all the other assets in multiple wallets. That way, if one of the wallets do become compromised, I have funds on other wallets. So just because a hack happens to someone else, it doesn't mean it won't happen to you. Now the last few I want to talk about have to do with Wonderland and Olympus DAO and Klima. I'm sure you already see where this is going. But basically this was FOMOing into the hype, into a narrative. This translates all across the board in crypto. If you see a narrative hyped up, it's not the time to buy. Sure, everyone may be dancing at that time, but eventually the music stops and all this stuff goes to zero. I ended up bag holding Klima. I invested mid 5 figures into this. Same thing with Olympus DAO, mid 5 figures. Almost 6 figures in Wonderland time. Sure enough, they got roasted. Actually, I did pretty good on time. I bought time around $4,000, maybe $3,000. I sold it at $9K. Yeah, I was smart. And then I ended up buying it back around $7K. And then I wrote it down. Good stuff. Anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope the mistakes that I shared with you help you learn. Again, the goal of my channel is to show you my mistakes so you can learn from my mistakes and so you don't make them. If you guys want to join the exclusive Discord, there's a link in the description below. And if you guys enjoyed this type of content, drop a like and tell me what you guys think of the video and what you want to see more of. Yes, I'll plan on doing some more altcoin videos as well as more projects. This is just something I wanted to share, practicing risk management as well as, well, setting proper expectations and taking profits, not financial advice. Proverbs chapter 12, verses 14. From the fruit of their lips, people are filled with good things, and the work of their hands bring them reward. Be good, be righteous, peace.